John Glenn, who understood the value of telling and sharing the story of our veterans. From the initial view, the architecture impresses upon visitors the importance of what lies within. Seeming to rise organically from the earth, the building itself is a symbol of our nation's veterans and their resilient spirit and unending commitment to making this country stronger. Once inside the museum, visitors embark on a narrative journey, following exhibitions that focus on the servicemen and women and their families. Individual stories and shared experiences are illustrated through personal artifacts, quotes, letters, photographs, and powerful films of veterans telling their unique story in their own words. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum. It's more than a museum. It's the new home of the brave. Plan your visit today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining our latest virtual rally point at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. My name is Colonel Retired Bill Butler, Chief of Staff. On behalf of our President and CEO, Lieutenant General Retired Mike Ferreter, welcome. As everyone, we round out 2020 with a great program today, and we're going to talk about the healing power of art for veterans. So joining us today are Mary Whyte, acclaimed watercolor artist who brought her national traveling exhibition, We the People, Portraits of Veterans in America, to the museum this fall, and Miss Heather Seymour, founder of the Veterans Art Initiative right here out of the Columbus, VA. Both of our guests have had an enormous impact in the veteran community and been tremendously helpful for the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. We're excited to share more about the impact that they've had and some of the great programs that they both head up that truly create healing power through art and impact lives. So I'm going to pass off to General Ferreter. Sir, over to you.
Thanks, Bill. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome, Mary, and welcome, Heather. I'm Lieutenant General Mike Ferreter, as Bill just said, U.S. Army retired, and the President and CEO here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. We truly do have a great show today, and really excited that we're able to bring both of these fantastic leaders to you and to share their experiences in art and with veterans. So we'll start with Mary. And the format, everyone, is there'll be questions and answers, and you can send questions over the Facebook if you want, and we'll get after those as well. It's really neat often, ladies, because your friends from around the country are watching or will be watching, and they'll send nice notes too, and you'll reconnect with some of your dear friends from the past or present even. So Mary, let's start with you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your inspiring exhibition here and how it ended up at the National Veteran Memorial Museum. And I think you're muted right now.
Veterans and viewers watching, it's great to be with you today and to tell you about my project. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you live from Charleston, South Carolina, here in my studio, where I did many of the paintings for the exhibition now on view at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus there. It was a project that it came to me because I wanted to do a portrait of America. I wanted to do this all-inclusive series of paintings that would represent all Americans, and going to paint one person from each of the 50 states. And it occurred to me, how do I choose one American and what makes a person most American? And then it became obvious that they are our veterans, that our veterans are our truest patriots. And so the project was born, and it launched here in Charleston a year ago, and we were able to bring in many of the veterans that you see there in the paintings. And we also launched the book and the foundation. And our intent was to tour this exhibition around the country. And of course, at that time, the museum in Columbus was just being built, and we were so pleased to be able to get on the schedule because I can't think of a place more appropriate than to have it there at the museum in Columbus, Ohio.
Thanks, Mary. And Heather, tell us about yourself and your activities and leadership that you provide for veterans through art at the VA here in Columbus.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. So I'm a social worker at the Columbus VA and part of the whole health leadership team. So the Veterans Arts Initiative is really a program that is based on research that we've done on the psychological and health benefits of art making. And the program really started from the Veterans Arts Council, which was a group of veterans who were real leaders in the community, and got together and they really came up with what they thought veterans would want. And we did some surveys to look for talent and interest. And then the whole program was really born from that council. And so they really kind of steered the way. And luckily, the Columbus leadership were amazingly helpful and cheerleaded and offered support and developed a whole position for myself as the creative arts coordinator. So I kind of shifted from doing therapy to doing arts programming full-time about 2 years ago.
That's amazing. And did you have an arts background as well as the social working background, or how did those come together?
Yeah, so I come from a family of artists. My father's a psychologist and a writer, and a pianist, and my mom is she's a writer and a weaver. And actually, the real story of how I kind of came to this really started in the 90s when my mom was hit by a car and sustained a traumatic brain injury, and started having some real issues with executive functioning. And I didn't really realize, none of us really realized how much she held everything in until much later when I was in graduate school and I was learning about the neurobiology of resiliency and traumatic brain injury. And I was working at the VA in Boston. And it's opened up this conversation. And for the first time, I realized that my mom was saying, you know, the only time that I really truly feel like my true self is when I'm making art, because I don't have any of these disabilities that have impacted. So with that, it kind of started a real passion. That was kind of the aha moment of seeing how my mom was able to really be resilient in her own life through art.
That's great. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that with us. Each of you so unique in a desire to bring this art capability, this healing nature of things to people that you don't know necessarily, that you don't know who's going to walk in the door next, or Mary, you didn't know who the person really was going to be as you selected them. So Mary, you're not a veteran. So what was your connection to veterans, and then why did this project become so important to you?
No, General, you're right. I am not a veteran, though both of my parents served during World War II. They were both in the Red Cross. Again, I'm probably the last person to in some ways to have done this project because I'm not a veteran. But in many ways, I represent the other 99% of the country of people that have benefited from those who have fought to uphold the freedoms that we enjoy.
Thanks.
So it just seemed a natural fit for me that I wanted to do this portrait of real, honest, contemporary American people. And I wanted to be the very best of us as Americans. and that had to be our veterans.
There are a lot of narratives, pictures, and sometimes a running discourse on who the American veteran is, Mary. Where did you have an aha moment in this where you started to figure out what it was to be a veteran? Um, more over than just a former soldier or former Marine or former Navy or Coast Guard Air Force person, but suddenly in your art and through your art, you project uh, a dynamic nature, a human nature from in your watercolors. So when did it was like, wait a minute, this is not about taking a photo snapshot of someone who served formerly.
Right. I think that, many Americans have a stereotype photo in their mind of what a veteran looks like and who they are. And as I was traveling across the country doing this project and meeting so many different veterans and hearing their stories, I was struck with the great diversity of our veterans. I mean, they do come, like all of America, they come from all walks of life, all backgrounds, and all had different stories of how they were raised and how they ended up in the military and why they went. And someone asked me, Mary, what was there with all this diversity? Was there anything that they all had in common? And I would have to say yes, that there was one thing, and that was this overriding sense of duty, this feeling of wanting to do something that was greater than self, and that was to serve in our communities and to certainly to serve our country.
Well, that's amazing. I'm so glad to hear it. Often, I believe that sense of duty and that strong desire, I often say, we veterans are like a Labrador with a tennis ball. We can't help ourselves. If you throw the ball, the dog will go get it. And if you have a veteran, they, he, she really want to make a difference still. And it's a disconnectedness to that clear purpose and mission and camaraderie and team that causes a lot of stress in the veteran world. So, Heather, you're a part of this research team, and you look at the actual health benefits of art making. What have you discovered in that, and kind of in relation to what Mary and I just talked about, this sense of duty and whether it's absent or waiting to launch again.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to be surrounded at the VA with people who are so gifted and passionate about creating innovative ways to help veterans and to serve our nation's heroes in different ways, and to really create a cultural transformation and come up with different ways. So the research team that I'm part of, Raquel Tobian and Dr. Laren Conklin, and I, back in 2017, we had our first randomized control study. And the art class was created by Nicole Monahan, who was a CCAD professor at the time. And she really created this workshop. It was an experimental drawing workshop that ran over the course of 5 weeks. And we were looking at how this 5-week workshop could impact veterans' anxiety, depression, quality of life, social connectiveness, and pain. And we are also looking at cortisol. So we're doing saliva samples. But those of you who know anything about saliva and cortisol, it's very difficult to get a good measure. Veterans were swabbing themselves in the morning, the first thing. And what we found over that 5 week is we had incredible results. Increases in quality of life, increases in social connectiveness, decrease in depression, decrease in anxiety. And we had one veteran who was new to the VA, the Columbus VA, and he came in one of the evenings that we had this research study, and we looked at him and we said, something's a little bit off. And so we talked with him and he said, yeah, I'm not doing well. And he disclosed that he was, if he hadn't have come into the art workshop, he had planned to complete suicide. And so it was just this really powerful moment of seeing how art was probably the only thing that would have gotten him into the VA that day, and how that one workshop created this lasting effect. And so all this first group of veterans that we ran, we had 2 groups. From that, all these great relationships formed. So and then so from that one research study, we decided to look at specifically veterans who were at risk of suicides, who were had a bunch of different factors that potentially made them vulnerable to increased depression and suicidal ideation. And in the preliminary results for that was also significant improvements in depression, anxiety, social connectedness. And again, some of those relationships have continued. It's really hard to capture everything with science unless you're doing a 27-year, 30-year research study to look at the longitudinal effects of these relationships. And that's what were, I think, the most impactful, were these friendships and referrals for the first time to behavioral health or to recovery services because of coming in and making art.
Thanks. So, Mary, as we just described, as Heather just described, you can see the effect on the veterans when they get to do the arts. What effect did you see on those with whom you worked? How did the interaction that you had with them and art affect their life?
It was really profound what I observed, and I had hoped that this exhibition would touch the public and veterans, but I have to say I was overwhelmed with the response that the veterans and their families came from all over the country, and even though that particular painting that they were standing in front of, it wasn't them, but they said to me, Mary, thank you for painting my life and for acknowledging me and my contribution. So I think it was really powerful, and for a lot of that, I have to thank for inspiring me to start the Patriot Art Foundation.
That's fantastic. So, just to build on that a little bit, none of the portraits look like these men and women are shrinking violets. They look like they know who they are. Was that a journey in some cases for those? Did they start somewhere else and end up as portrayed, or what did you find?
They all had different stories, and I knew that when the public would come to look at these paintings, that they probably would not recognize the individual. They wouldn't know who that particular person is. But my hope is that they would recognize the emotion of it. And so part of my endeavor in this whole series of 50 paintings was to show this range of emotions, not saying that how I portrayed that person was the exact final analysis of their personality, but it was a moment, a real human moment that they had that other people could respond to. And it was interesting for me to hear these stories from these veterans, at how being serving in the military. I mean, because I asked them what was the best thing about serving in the military and what was the worst thing about serving in the military. But I would say that almost all of them said to me that serving in the military made them a better person.
Very cool. So here's the question for each of you. So I'm out there in Facebook land watching this thinking, I can barely draw a stick man. So how does, we're gonna talk about some of the future work that each of you have in store for those. But let me ask Mary first, and then Heather will come to you. But how do you start with someone and start teaching them to be an artist? So Mary, well, how does that work?
That's always an interesting question, because you can't just sit a child down at a piano and say, express yourself, because you can imagine what the results would be. So there is a certain amount of training that we go through just to have an increased vocabulary, just to be able to know how to mix a color or to create a soft edge or a hard edge, to know the sort of fundamentals of what makes a painting more successful and what makes a painting not successful. So there are certainly elements of learning. But I can say, for me, I think the most important thing that I could do as a teacher is simply to inspire this person to try. That just to try it, because I've sat down one time. I sat down. It was out in Omaha at the Buffett Cancer Center, and I gave some on-site drawing classes for some of the patients, just as a way for them to have a moment of relaxation. So we took them out into the garden, and I had them draw with me, and none of them had ever drawn anything before. I said, but just look at this flower. Just what is that shape that you see? Can you go around the edge of this petal in your mind and copy that? And I remember one woman afterwards saying to me, I feel better after she did that. And she said, I want to do that again. And so, that is the best thing that we could hope for, as instructors, is to inspire them just to keep going.
Amazing. And then Heather, same question. How Mike Fairder sits in front of you with you can't dance and can't draw. We got a problem. So how do you get involved with these people? How do you see it start and then grow?
Yeah, so I would disagree. If you can do jujitsu, or if you can walk, you can dance. If you can move your fingers, you can draw. I think what often happens is our brain gets in the way of our hands. So one way you can do that is, instead of when you're drawing something, we tend to draw, we look at something and then we try to draw it perfectly, right? So your brain changes if you turn something around, right? So if you have something that you're looking at and you just simply turn it backwards, and then it becomes something else. It becomes shadows. It becomes lines. You no longer are like, oh, that face doesn't look right. It's more about breaking things down into smaller, manageable pieces, right? So we wouldn't ask someone to sit down and play Beethoven, right? We would start with the fundamentals of simple movements in dance, or simple mark making in drawing. And the biggest thing, I think, is allowing movement and room for play, because as an adults, we are not encouraged to play and to fail and to try something different. And so I think that's where art really, whatever form of art, whether it's music, dance, or drawing or theater, is allowing this space for the freedom to really experiment and see what works, and then go back and try something else. And the biggest factor of learning and talent is not ingrained talent. Sure, that helps, but it's practice. And so art making is a practice. Mindfulness is a practice. Jiu-jitsu is a practice. It's that muscle memory. So creating a space and time for the practice of something, and then also giving folks the tools. People learn different ways, visually or auditorily. And so you have to figure out how people learn well, which kind of learning style they are, and then what they love. So if someone loves cars, they're probably going to be much more into, learning how to paint cars. Or if they love dance, then, they're most likely going to be more passionate about that. So it's really finding out what people love, what really gets them lit up, and being the conduit and providing them the resources in order to help them on that journey, on that practice.
Mm-hmm. And Mary, any other thoughts as you listen to Heather and also think about from the first question on how to teach?
Yes, I certainly agree with Heather and what you've said, Heather, that it's really just a matter of practice. And I've had so many students say, I can't draw, I don't know how to do this. And it's just sitting down and doing it and learning. It's really learning how to see and identifying your emotions and just having the courage to sit down and to try it. I think that's the first step.
Excellent. I just let everybody know that people are watching from the United Kingdom. Old friends of yours are reaching out to us. Mike says, very excited to see Mary's wonderful exhibition. We had the opportunity to work with the VA and see the great programs thrive there. And then they worked with Heather from there with the Lima company. And Tiffany, thanks, Jinx. And Tiffany said, if you need to contact Mary, Sharon Crawford is a POC, and we can get that posted as well. I always found it interesting. So I've been involved in the Veteran Golfers Association and Links to Freedom, which is for Wounded Warrior Golf, and Down the Stretch Ranch, which is in Spokane, Washington, and of course, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Jiu-Jitsu. And it always seems almost the most vexing thing causes you to be able to totally focus and feel that you're accomplishing things. How would you remark about art in that regard? And Mary, I'll start with you first.
Understand your question. It's how does it enable you to focus?
Sure.
It's an amazing thing that you focus in a different way. That I'm sure Heather could talk to this better than I can. But the idea that when you're looking at an apple, it's really largely the left side of the cognitive side of the brain is engaged right then. But then when you're drawing that apple, it's the other side of the brain that becomes engaged. And it's this total immersion. And I can tell you for myself, when if I were to walk through that exhibition, I could say, yes, I that's absolutely my painting, and this is why I painted it, and this is who the painting's of, and this is what I intended the viewer to get out of the painting and to feel. But I don't actually remember painting it.
Oh, wow.
That I don't remember actually painting the paintings. So it is this whole sort of deep dive in. It's a wonderful feeling.
Amazing. What do you think, Heather, about that?
Oh, I love that. I love that, the connection between the cognitive brain and kind of the intuitive brain. And, you were probably in the flow state, right? So if you look at people who meditate, if you put them in an fMRI machine, and then they've also put folks who are just improving on saxophone in the fMRI machine. So looking at the brain in real time, there's this state that happens, and it's as if one's meditating, where things are just flowing, the creativity is flowing, your sense of time is kind of skewed. You lose appetite. You don't remember that you're hungry or that you're tired. It's like this incredible state of making. And it sounds like you have you've gotten to that amazing point throughout these paintings, it's so exciting. I think art in general is such an amazing way to practice mindfulness. It really can connect you with seeing, that what Mary said, like it teaches you to see differently.
Oh, for sure.
Or unsee. So, we have different ways of seeing, and really, we see things not as they are, but as we are. It comes from our own perspectives, our own experiences. So I love that you've reached that flow state for your paintings, and it certainly does show in just looking at them. You really can get lost in those juicy watercolors.
Yeah, well, we've experienced that at, I recall a Staff Sergeant Smallwood in 2nd Ranger Battalion back in the 80s, and we were in the jungles of Panama, and I had just arrived to the unit, and he was a salty, squad leader. And Bill Butler just wrote, I would say soldiers in a firefight or jumping out of airplanes and conducting live fires all get us to the same state of hyper concentration. And Smallwood, we did this live fire, and I was the officer in charge of it, and so we go sweeping across this area, and then we do the after action review, and what he described that he saw, and then Jones, he had a fly on his cheek for a second there, and then Smith bounded around to the right, and then we threw these grenades, and one of them landed on its nose and the other on its tail, and I thought all I saw was go, stop, and so the ability to pull it all in, and many of us who served have had those flow moments, and maybe that's what many seek also. I want to say a few things. First of all, I want to thank our corporate sponsors that helped us bring Mary Whyte here, and also help us work with Heather and the VA, and that includes Big Lots and their generosity, the Greater Columbus Arts Council and the Ohio Arts Council, just to name a few, and Lane Aviation, we'll call out earlier, actually help us put on this virtual rally point. Without it, we couldn't do it, and we often remind everyone that we are a National Veterans Memorial and Museum, and signed into law by the president, but we get no federal funds and no state funds and no other funds. So it's the hard work of my staff and the generosity of everyone out there. So join as a member, come and see us, continue to come to these virtual events, and continue to make a difference in people's lives. Well, we're going to look ahead now a little bit. And so the rearview mirror and what we did is always awesome. But let's talk about where you're taking things. And so, Mary, you founded the Patriot Art Foundation. About the same time you launched this, you told us at the beginning. So what's its mission, and where do you want to go with that?
Yes, we founded the Patriot Art Foundation a year ago as a result of this exhibition, and it's our mission is telling veterans' stories through art, and that we're telling their stories, and we're allowing. My goal is to have veterans tell their own stories through online art education that we're starting to build right now. So that will enable veterans from their home, to be able to do art. That if they're unable to get to a local VA or to a local art center to do art, they can still have these online courses accessible to them at home. And we're also working with our partner here, of course, the Citadel in Charleston Military College here, that we're working with them to also create some courses for their cadets there to be able to reach out in the community and engage students as well, to have them learn about heroism and leadership, and to connect better with our veterans.
Fantastic. And just if you could comment on what you have in store to come here to the National Veterans Memorial Museum, as well as that online.
Yes, we're going to be coming to of course, to Columbus in March. We be doing some classes there for veterans and as well as for the public. So I'm really looking forward to that, to have that, particularly that we hope with COVID will be kind to us and exit. We'd like to have some, one-on-one, hands-on opportunities for classes with veterans there in Columbus, Ohio.
Very cool. I predict success on that one also. And Heather, as you look forward to from now, really 2021 is just going to be a great year as we partner with you and work with you, but also watch your programs flourish and thrive. So tell the audience a little bit about what's coming up.
So we're offering workshops virtually. We have one that's coming up in next week, which is a collage workshop. We'll have a bunch of those throughout the year. We have a poetry workshop with a physician who is also a creative writer teacher, and she's amazing. The things that she pulls out of folks in such a gentle, human way, but she's fantastic. Beth Weinstock is her name. Okay. So we'll have a lot of those going on. We have a show at the Greater Columbus Arts Council Gallery going up in March. We'll have the Ohio State Fair exhibit, which will be our second year. There's the National VA Creative Arts Contest, which they've extended until submissions until October of 21. Mm-hmm. So it's a very long submission process, which is great because it means that we will have so many submissions. And that's not just visual arts, but that's theater, music, dance, and that's nationwide. And then we have a Tandy Leather virtual workshop we're working on. I mean, literally every week something gets added to the calendar. It's just been amazing how, one workshop turns into 6 workshops and 4 different community partnerships. So we have a lot of different community partnerships we're working on with arts nonprofits, including Creative Vets. And Challenge America is starting a collaboration with the VA with music therapy. So they're starting to run virtual music therapy classes. So there's more to come with that. That's nationwide. Although we are here in Columbus, we have reach all over the country through these networks of music therapists, art therapists, and dance therapists, and the whole health teams. So there's lots to be done, and growing it to make sure that every single veteran, whether they are in the most rural parts of America or in downtown some city, they all have the same unique opportunities to make art with other folks. And unfortunately, COVID really fast forwarded this process. So fortunately and unfortunately, but we at the VA have certainly pivoted quickly to meet the demands.
Yeah, let me do a shout out to Colonel Retired Vivian Hudson there, who is the director of the Columbus, Ohio VA, really central Ohio or central USA, central universe. She does it all, and her energy and enthusiasm and optimism is what fuels great people like Heather. And so probably the VA is not perfect everywhere or anywhere, but I can tell you that the one here really has the right approach to taking care of people and caring for veterans. And Heather, thanks to you and all of your colleagues over there that really understand their mission is all about veterans. So Mary, I'm going to switch back to you again and just ask you, we the people, you spent 7 years traveling around in a motorhome, I've chronicled that in your book. And the title, We the People, as you've had time to, as many of the youngsters around here say, marinate in the thought, then what does that mean to you now that you've been a part of this project?
Well, of course, the title alludes to one of our country's greatest documents about the principles on which we were founded. And of course, the title "We the People" is meant to have this all-inclusive sense to it. That this is all about um, all of us. You know, this includes all of us here. So and this became especially apparent to me after I finished this, and this went up, and I saw how many different kinds of people from so many different backgrounds came to come see this exhibition.
Excellent. That's really something. And one of your friends in the UK says that she cannot wait to see it when it gets over there for the IWW or something. IWM in 2021 in the UK. So we're reaching out and as well. And Heather, you know, to your point, we feel the same way here at the National Veterans Memorial Museum. Even the fact that we're doing this right now, and we have a guest in the United Kingdom and Ranger buddies down in Georgia, and you know, people, you know, shipmates signing in there. We felt like we had to reach to about 2023 and pull it into this year because of COVID, pivot towards virtual and online and digital. So can you envision a digital or digitized virtual exhibit hall at the NVMM with many of these pieces of art, so that those out there who are listening can learn to paint, can learn to create, and then have it posted, and then they can tell mom, dad, sister, brother across the country, hey, go to the NVMM online and you'll see not only my artwork, but many others. And then it can be cataloged in a variety of topics as well. But how would you see that working out?
Yeah, I mean, your space there is just so gorgeous. And I think that could happen pretty quickly. We have so many artists, not just here in Columbus, but nationwide through this whole network of creative arts contest winners. And the director of that National Creative Arts Contest is lovely. So I can really see a few different things, maybe different themes, maybe ongoing shows, or I think that the fact that things are virtual really opens up the ability to have more shows, really, if they're based on images. So I am thrilled at that idea, and would love to start making that a priority for the next few months of how does that work.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we can find a yes out there on that one too. So Mary, the question always is, which is your favorite of those portraits and why?
Question quite often, which of the paintings is my favorite, and there's several of them are favorites simply because as an artist I was able to tackle something and accomplish something that I'd never done before, such as a different, like painting the light within a coal mine, or painting the sense of a wave coming over the boat with the lobstermen. So those are sort of favorites because they were especially engaging to me. But others are favorites because of friendships that ensued from these paintings. In particular, the one of the main woman sitting on the bow of the boat, Jody, was wonderful because become a very good friend of mine. And Dennis, who was homeless at the time when I went out to California to paint him, in excuse me, in his camp up in the woods in California. Excuse me. So there are several that are favorites because of these very special friendships that came out of it.
Can you see the screen with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 portraits right there?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the woman in the Native American Indian.
That the one you're just seeing a sliver there on your screen. She's the second from the left there, looking up. In the painting, she's actually has her arms stretched out against a wall. It's a quite a large painting. It's almost 6 feet across, framed up. And the title of it is America. And I've shown her in her Lakota traditional attire. The beading was a lot of it was done by her husband. And what I loved about the outfit that she actually wore was little American flags, across her shoulder, or the American eagle beaded into her vestment there. And then strewn around her was a lot of trash. I actually had her pose for me in a back alley in Aberdeen, South Dakota, where she lives, so that I could get this contrast of this of the decay, the graffiti, and the ugly part of America, and contrast that against her purity and this hopefulness of her looking upward.
Very cool. And how about the young fellow with the dog tag on his chest?
Oh, yes, that's Sean. And Sean, African American, he was at the time, he was working full time for Ringling Brothers and was traveling around the country. And I wanted to paint him not in full makeup as a clown, but I wanted him in that halfway point where he was just sort of partially made up with some of the makeup on his face, and the dog tag hanging down on his chest from one of his friends, and having him just looking off to the side. And other ones that are in the lineup there, the one on the far left, that's just a little snippet of Casey, who is a firefighter from Oregon, and then Wendy, who a cook from Alabama, and then Sandra, who's your Ohio veteran. Sandra is from Toledo, and Sandra's a Marine. And after she left service, she was a truck driver, drove a 50-some foot rig back and forth across the country as her full-time career.
Yeah, I was able to meet her when she visited. She's full of life as well.
Yes.
So Heather, if someone wants to contact you, can you, if you can give a point of contact information, and then Jinx will type it up and show it.
For me? For cut out. Okay. Yeah, I can share my email and my office phone number.
Okay.
For sure. Was there a question there too? You cut out for a second.
Yeah, no, there's really good activity on the Facebook chat, and I want to make sure that they can find a way to you should they want to.
I wonder if they could put in rally point as a subject line, so it doesn't get buried.
Okay. So Mary, tell me, as we get ready to wrap up here, in 2021, if the year goes the way you want it to, what will be the highlights for you?
Oh my goodness, the highlights. Well, that we can all come back together as families and communities, and to be able to travel that way. For me, the highlight would be that the public could come and see this exhibition, that they could come to your museum and see these paintings and enjoy them, and see what else you have there to offer at the museum.
Well, thanks. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the exhibition upstairs, prepared by our staff, and in the first time in their lives that they've ever taken this world-class level of an exhibition, and finding a way to place it and to build walls, to put it on, and stanchions and all. And Cloyd and his team of super hard workers really hit it out of the park. But what really hits it out of the park and will touch your heart and your life are the portraits. They are stunning, and each one that you look at, well, you will feel like you were there when it was painted, and you will, at least I do, and you will feel like someone painted it for you to look at. So Mary, just spectacular. Heather, if 2021 goes great and perfect for the way you want to go, tell us about what it's going to look like.
You cut out a little bit, but I think the question was, if 2021 goes great, what do I look forward to most?
Yes.
A show at the National Veterans Memorial Museum. Also in September of 21, I hope that we're able to do an in-person National Veterans Film Festival. I don't know if that is, if there's going to be able to be a in-person piece to it and a virtual piece to it, but I can't wait to be able to hug people again. I can't wait to be able to have open art studio with my veterans in person, be drinking coffee and telling terrible jokes. I miss them. So it's really, yeah, I really miss that face-to-face, in person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how quickly that can be done. We expect it will. So, Heather, closing comments. All that you've learned, all that you think, and all the impact that you see. What are your closing comments, and what's your call to action for all those who will watch this?
You don't have to be good at making art to benefit from making art. You have the same mindfulness and relaxation that a master would get if you allow yourself to be able to try to practice and realize that it's another tool. And it's a way to connect with other folks. So I think as we are really trying to figure out ways to stay in touch and to connect, this is it's a tool to have new conversations with new people. And it certainly can be done virtually. And if anyone is struggling out there, because we're all struggling in our own ways, please reach out. Please reach out to me or to a loved one. We have the next few months, I think, are going to be pretty difficult on us. And there are people who want to hear from me, and I'm one of them. So my phone number's in there, my email's in there. I can help get connected to art programs. And if you don't know who to contact in your local VA, I can certainly help negotiate that.
Okay, and that's heather.seymour@va.gov. Excellent. Mary,
Yes, sir.
your final thoughts and a call to action?
Well, I can tell you, General, probably my greatest takeaway from having done this project, that 7 years, and I did it largely by myself in secret. Really, no one knew I was doing this, and I got to travel to all 50 states and meet some amazing, amazing veterans. And one thing that I heard from them and that they taught me, and in so many different ways, was to never let fear stop you. And so I would, and that's what I heard over and over again. So I would like to encourage them. And some people don't do art because they're afraid. They're simply afraid that it's not going to look good, that people won't understand it, it won't be as good as somebody else's. But I encourage your veterans to try to reach out to the VA, to Heather Seymour's organization, to their local art leagues and just to try it and just to tell your story and just see what happens.
I see. Okay, that's fantastic. And we've got a grandson who's doing his Zoom first grade class. He's here with us, and it's in Monterey. And so if he can reach to first grade class in Monterey, California, wherever you are watching this, and some more of our battle buddies and ranger buddies, Jay Rosenblum's classmate, and Charles Wilson as well, and Sandra Ball again, and Mike Gathers, who's in Iraq with me. People, this is important what you ladies are doing and the lives that you're impacting. And so I just want to thank you for being with us today. I'm Lieutenant General Mike Farrader, and we're at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. I ask you to get involved, to all of our guests out there. Join as a member or be involved in some other way. And then I really ask that if you know someone or you are someone who needs to connect, then don't suffer in silence. Reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Heather, and find someone. Get involved in things like art, things like Veteran Golfers Association or local Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu chapter, or go for a walk, and then and connect with those who are important in your life as well. I'm going to pass over now with one final thanks to Mary Whyte and to Heather Seymour. You've graced us and touched lives again, so thank you so much. And with that, I'll hand over to Colonel Retired Bill Butler, our Chief of Staff, and the Director and Coordinator of this orchestra. Thanks, Bill.
Sure, thank you. And Mary and Heather, thank you for a great event today. It really helped us in 2020 with our final rally point, and we ended on a great high note. So just as a reminder, despite our national designation, we're an unfunded 501c3 nonprofit. So programs like this and Veterans Voices and our other virtual events and activities here at the museum are funded through generous donations, memberships, and sponsors. We have a great sponsor in our 2020 rally points in Lane Aviation, so a shout out to them. And then with the holidays coming up, we know some people might be trying to think of what to get their veteran for Christmas or Hanukkah, but consider the gift of membership here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. As Mary mentioned, just here in a couple of weeks, we're going to launch our first virtual exhibition tour of We the People. So that's scheduled to start on December 20th. Don't miss it. It's a great opportunity to see her wonderful portraits and paintings. Keep checking our website just for dates and times in case those adjust. Just as a reminder, also, we don't have a virtual rally point in January, but we do have some great events coming up for programming in 2021. So check out our website at nationalvmm.org, and you can see what's coming. Thank you, and remember to send warm wishes to our veterans and military members who are deployed overseas, particularly those who can't be with their families over the holidays. Everybody stay safe and healthy. And from all of us here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, happy holidays.
My name is Steve Evans, and I'm the president of Lane Aviation. Lane Aviation has a long history supporting the United States military. When World War II broke out in December of 1941, there was a significant need for military pilots to fight against Adolf Hitler and his allies. The United States Navy took over full occupation of Port Columbus Airport to support the war effort, which included the Lane facilities. Lane Aviation founder Foster Lane made a temporary move to Sullivan Airport on the west side of Columbus, and then to OSU's Don Scott Field in 1943, where he headed a Navy flight preparatory school that graduated over 1,000 pilots. Lane Aviation has continued its relationship with the United States military by providing ground support at John Glenn Columbus International Airport. Lane Aviation is proud to be a founding corporate partner of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, which honors the dedication and service of our military members.